What if one of the most consequential decisions a human being can make is also the one society least wants examined? Say you want a child, and people ask when. Say you want two, and they imagine names, bedrooms, birthdays. Say you want none, and suddenly your life is placed under interrogation. Why? What are you afraid of? Who will care for you when you are old? What if you regret it? There is something peculiar here. Creating a person requires no philosophical defense. Refusing to create one often does. To have a child is to begin a story whose reader cannot refuse the first page. A consciousness appears where there was none before. It will learn warmth and hunger, attachment and separation, desire and disappointment. It may discover friendship, music, tenderness, sex, faith, betrayal, illness, wonder. One day, it will understand that everyone it loves is temporary. Eventually, it will understand that it is temporary too. This is what reproduction actually contains. And somehow, hesitation is considered strange. Most of us inherit an old sequence before we are old enough to inspect it. Grow up, become useful, find someone, reproduce, raise the next generation, age, disappear. Perhaps this life is exactly what some people deeply want. There is nothing dishonest in that. The unsettling question begins elsewhere. How many people chose the sequence, and how many merely discovered themselves already living inside it? Human beings are remarkably good at confusing repetition with necessity. A road crossed by enough generations begins to resemble geography. We forget that someone once decided where it should go. Perhaps this is why the person who doesn't want children can provoke reactions far larger than the decision itself deserves. They represent an unopened door in someone else's past. Because if a meaningful life can exist without children, then parenthood was never the universal answer. It was one possible answer, and that possibility can be disturbing. What if some of our deepest convictions are only inherited instructions with our names written on them? What if calling the child free selfish protects us from examining why we became parents? What if the greater irresponsibility isn't refusing to create life, but creating it without ever asking whether we truly wanted the responsibility of another consciousness? This video isn't an argument against children. It is an examination of something stranger. Why does the absence of a person who never existed disturb people who already do? There is a peculiar cruelty in telling someone they must create another human being to prove they are capable of love. Yet this idea survives. "I don't want children" is rarely heard as a preference alone. Somewhere between the sentence and the listener, it can become evidence. Evidence of selfishness, immaturity, coldness, a defective relationship with life itself. And the accusation that appears most reliably is almost always the same. You're selfish. Selfish toward whom? The child who does not exist? There is no abandoned person waiting in some metaphysical corridor, disappointed that you refuse to become their parent. No consciousness has been deprived of birthdays, sunlight, or affection. Before conception, there is nobody there to experience the deprivation. So perhaps the accusation deserves inspection from the opposite direction. Why do people have children? Some want a family. Some want to experience parenthood. Some dream of seeing familiar features appear in a new face. Others want to continue a surname, give their parents grandchildren, repair a relationship, find purpose, or have someone nearby when age begins removing people from their lives. These desires can be tender, understandable, profoundly human. Still, they begin with the desires of people who already exist. Why then? Is wanting a child presumed generous while not wanting? One must defend itself against selfishness. Then comes another sentence. You'll never know real love. Perhaps parental love can reach an intensity language handles badly. Countless parents describe it that way, and there is no reason to diminish their experience. Yet why must one form of love invalidate the others? Was the woman who spent 10 years caring for her dying sister merely rehearsing love? Is the man who rearranges his entire life for an aging father experiencing something counterfeit? Does devotion become authentic only when DNA recognizes itself? If biology held a monopoly on profound love, humanity would be poorer than its own history suggests. And eventually comes the threat disguised as advice. You'll die alone. Perhaps. So will some parents. Children become adults, and adults acquire distances. Careers move them. Marriages reorganize loyalties. Resentments divide families. Some children die before their parents. Others become strangers who still share a surname. A child is a person, not a pension plan with a heartbeat. And there is something deeply troubling about assigning someone, before they are even born, the future task of protecting us from loneliness. Still, none of this explains why the child-free person can provoke such hostility. Perhaps part of the answer is more uncomfortable. Sometimes another person's freedom resembles an accusation, even when they have accused us of nothing. Someone who refuses parenthood may stand before another person like an unused key discovered decades after the house was sold. A different life had been possible. That realization does not mean parenthood was a mistake. Many people would choose their children again without hesitation. Yet others may encounter a question they buried beneath duty. Did I choose this life? Or did I arrive inside it before realizing there had been alternatives? And perhaps this is why certain people need the child-free to become selfish, immature, lonely, eventually regretful. Because if they can be fulfilled, loving, responsible, and complete without children, then the old equation collapses. Parenthood may be sacred to someone. It is not therefore compulsory for everyone. And once that distinction is admitted, a darker question becomes unavoidable. What if recognizing that you should never become a parent is sometimes more responsible than becoming one? Some children spend years recovering from parents who were praised for having them. That sentence is difficult because it breaks one of our favorite assumptions, that creating life and being prepared to care for it are somehow neighboring abilities. They are not. The human body can become capable of reproduction years before the human mind becomes capable of raising another person well. Fertility measures none of the qualities a child will eventually need. It cannot measure patience, emotional stability, tenderness, restraint, self-awareness, or the ability to remain present when exhaustion has stripped kindness down to its last thread. So why do we treat the ability to create a child as though it were evidence that someone should? Parenthood is often introduced through its ceremonies: the announcement, the ultrasound, the tiny clothes, the first photograph. Life continues after the photograph. There are fevers at 3 a.m, months of fractured sleep, financial pressure, repetition, fear, lost privacy, a relationship transformed by responsibility. There are years in which another person's needs arrive before your mood, your plans, your exhaustion, sometimes even your grief. And love does not magically erase the cost of loving. That is precisely why one of the most responsible sentences an adult can confront may be, "I might not be suited for this." How many people are willing to ask themselves that before another consciousness depends on the answer? Because children inherit far more than cheekbones. They inherit atmospheres. A father's anger can become the temperature of a house. A mother's emotional absence can become a child's first definition of intimacy. Shame can pass through generations without appearing on any medical record. So can tenderness. So can fear. So can the habit of apologizing, or never apologizing. A parent is among the first people from whom a child learns what love feels like from the inside. Think about the weight of that. Before a child understands psychology, it studies faces. Before it knows the word rejection, it can feel unwanted. Before it can explain resentment, it may already recognize the particular exhaustion that enters a parent's expression when it asks for attention again. Food can be provided, school can be paid for, birthdays can be remembered, and a child can still grow up with a strange conviction that its existence takes up too much room. What happens when someone becomes a parent hoping desire will arrive afterward? Perhaps it does. Human beings change profoundly. Yet what if it doesn't? What if obligation grows where longing was expected? What if affection exists alongside resentment? What if the child eventually realizes that it was conceived to save a marriage, satisfy grandparents, obey a religion, continue a surname, or complete an adult who felt unfinished? A child should never be assigned a purpose before learning its own name. There is almost something metaphysical about parenthood. For the first years of life, parents do more than occupy a child's world. They help construct it. Their reactions become early evidence about whether reality is safe, whether mistakes deserve terror, whether affection must be earned. That power should frighten us a little, perhaps even enough to make honesty more important than tradition. Because breaking a generational cycle sometimes means becoming a better parent. And sometimes it means refusing to begin another generation. So consider the question society rarely asks. If you know that you do not want the daily, irreversible responsibility of raising another human being, who exactly benefits from you becoming a parent anyway? If your life needs another human being in order to become meaningful, what will that human being need in order to make theirs meaningful? Another child? And then another? Follow that answer far enough and something strange happens. Meaning never actually arrives. Each generation hands the question to the next like an unopened letter, until everyone has lived and nobody has explained what all the living was for. Reproduction explains continuation. It does not explain purpose. Biology can tell us why organisms develop the impulse to reproduce. Evolution can describe how traits survive through generations. Yet none of this answers the private question that eventually visits a conscious creature. What should I do with the fact that I exist? That question belongs to another territory. We arrive here without choosing the century, the body, the parents, the language, or the conditions waiting outside the womb. We become aware somewhere in the middle of events already underway. Then we spend decades becoming attached to things reality has never promised to preserve. People, faces, homes, animals, bodies, beliefs, versions of ourselves. We know they are temporary, and still we love them with the appetite of creatures who would prefer eternity. Perhaps that is one of the strangest facts about being human. We can understand impermanence intellectually while living emotionally, as though certain things have violated the natural order when they disappear. And children do not solve this. A child may continue your genes, perhaps your surname, perhaps fragments of your mannerisms. Yet descendants are not an escape tunnel from mortality. Family lines eventually change, merge, scatter, or end. Photographs survive longer than the stories attached to them. Graves lose visitors. Houses pass into hands that do not know who once cried in their kitchens. Even civilizations become archaeology. So what exactly are we trying to preserve? And why must preservation be the measure of meaning? A song does not become worthless when its final note ends. A conversation can alter a life without being recorded. A person may spend decades caring for strangers and leave no genetic descendant capable of carrying their face into another century. History itself refuses the idea that childlessness equals emptiness. Monks, nuns, ascetics, contemplatives, and other religious figures have deliberately lived without descendants, directing their lives towards service, discipline, knowledge, compassion, transcendence, or God. Whether their metaphysical beliefs were true is another question. Their existence proves something simpler. Human beings have long imagined purposes larger than biological continuation. There is also a burden we rarely discuss. What happens when a child is created to cure an adult's emptiness? Give me purpose. Make this marriage whole. Continue what I started. Become the reason I wake up. Those sentences can sound loving until we notice the weight placed on someone who has not even learned to speak. Because children grow away from us. They develop private thoughts. They reject beliefs. They choose lovers. They move. They become people their parents could never have designed. And one day, if everything goes reasonably well, they stop needing us in the way they once did. Who are you then? Perhaps a child can become part of the meaning of a life. Yet asking them to become its entire meaning risks turning love into an inheritance they never agreed to carry. Maybe the better question was never, who will continue me? Maybe it is, what deserves the portion of existence that has temporarily become mine? And once you answer that, another question waits beneath it. What if, decades from now, you discover that you answered wrong? Maybe one day I will regret all of this. That possibility deserves more respect than a convenient answer. Perhaps I will reach 70 and discover that the man who made this decision no longer resembles the man forced to live with it. My parents may be gone. Some friends will have died. Others will be absorbed into families of their own. The phone may ring less often. There may be Sundays with too many unused hours. Perhaps I will see someone my age having dinner with his children and grandchildren, and feel grief for people who never existed. What kind of grief is that? To miss a daughter whose face was never formed. To imagine the voice of a son who was never born. To mourn Christmas mornings that happened only in the architecture of possibility. I may eventually ask myself, what if I was wrong? There is no philosophy honest enough to guarantee that I won't. We make permanent decisions with temporary versions of ourselves. That is one of adulthood's cruelest conditions. The person choosing and the person remembering the choice can be separated by 40 years of losses, discoveries, and transformations. So yes, I could regret having no children. Yet there is another regret, and it has consequences beyond the person carrying it. Some parents love their children deeply and still regret becoming parents. Research on parental regret has documented precisely this difficult coexistence. Love for the child can remain, while regret about entering parenthood also exists. Imagine living inside that contradiction. You know their birthday. You remember their first fever. You recognize their footsteps. You would suffer if anything happened to them. And somewhere beneath all of that affection exists a thought you may barely permit yourself to finish. If I could return to the beginning, knowing everything I know now, I would choose differently. What does a person do with such knowledge? More importantly, what happens if the child eventually feels it? Here, the two regrets cease to be morally symmetrical. If I regret remaining child-free, the wound is principally mine. I will inhabit the empty rooms. I will answer to the older version of myself. I will carry the consequences of my decision. If I regret becoming a father, another nervous system may grow inside the weather of that regret. That changes everything. A career can be abandoned. A city can be left. A marriage can end. A worldview can collapse at 50 and be rebuilt at 51. Parenthood has no equivalent exit. Once a person exists, there is no ethical undo button. The decision has acquired a body. It has memories now, attachments, fears, expectations, a favorite song, a particular way of laughing. Someone exists who can be wounded by the conditions surrounding the choice that created them. And there is an even deeper fact beneath parenthood that no tenderness can remove. Every parent chooses existence on behalf of someone who cannot consent to receiving it. No parent can know what that existence will contain. You cannot guarantee health, You cannot guarantee love. You cannot guarantee that your child will escape violence, grief, mental anguish, loneliness, catastrophe, or the early death of someone they cannot imagine living without. Neither can you guarantee that they will consider existence worth its cost. You can love them, protect them where possible, prepare them, hope fiercely. Still, the future remains unsigned. Perhaps that is why the decision to create a person deserves something greater than social momentum. It deserves awe. It deserves fear. It deserves honesty severe enough to survive other people's expectations. Because saying yes to parenthood can be one of the deepest commitments a human being makes. And sometimes, after examining the same abyss with equal seriousness, the responsible answer may still be no. So perhaps we have been demanding certainty from the wrong person. Instead of asking the child free, how can you be sure? We should occasionally have the courage to ask everyone, how can any of us be sure? If these videos give you something worth thinking about, consider becoming a member. There are 100+ exclusive videos waiting for members, and you can currently try membership free for 1 month. You can also support the channel through Super Thanks. It genuinely helps me keep making work like this. And if you can't support financially, you're already helping simply by watching, sharing, and coming back. Thank you for being here.